Happy New Year. Oh, that's great. I love it when everything comes together and the sound effects happen and just celebrate the fireworks and Old Lang Syne. It's just so cool. Welcome into InGoal Radio, the podcast. I'm Darren Millard along with Kevin Woodley and David Hutchison, who he doubles as our editor and our producer and our dad. And right now he's very upset with me because I set it up for extra effects. And every time I do that, he's like, oh, more work.
No, now I don't have to think. I'm just making notes what I have to keep up with.
Hey, guys, seriously, Happy New Year. Happy 2022 as we turn the page and get into things. Do you guys practice resolutions at all? Do you come up with anything that maybe you might want to focus on, whether it's hockey related or life related? Hutch?
I often do, except quite on purpose. I either start them a couple days before or a couple days after so I can say that they're not New Year's resolutions because those always fail. So I'll probably do something tomorrow.
Well, that makes it. You got some time.
I'm going to listen to you two get inspired and make up my resolution tomorrow, but it's not a New Year's one.
Not a resolutions guy, although recently I feel like I'm writing down ways to get better on an everyday basis. It's like I slip them into my to-do list and then I fail at every aspect of that to-do list. So maybe my resolution should be to make more realistic to-do lists on a daily basis so I don't need wide sweeping resolutions. There you go. I just came up with one. I guess I am doing
Hutch,
one.
You're nodding.
Okay, we're not sponsored by this company, but I actually downloaded a little app called Streaks probably a month ago, where you can set in things that you want to do every day and you just sort of tap on your phone to say I did it, and then you get that sort of rush that your streak is up to 10 days, 15 days, 20 days, whatever. I find trying to keep a streak a really motivating thing, so I do that. So for example, I haven't checked my phone when I wake up in 40 some odd days now just because of that.
Ooh, that'd be. See, that's like my kids with the Snapchat, right? They got to keep these streaks going, and they're like addicted to them. I guess you could turn that into a positive thing.
It's kind of a cool thing. You get a dopamine rush or something like that every time you reward yourself for having kept up the streak.
Wow.
I got the Apple Watch, and so like it has
an app for the watch.
Fitness goals, right? So you get the fitness goals daily. You're supposed to meet certain move and exercise.
That links right into this app.
Yeah.
It's kind of cool.
So I do like that feeling at the end of the day, although I will say on New Year's Eve that like I had a goal to continue a streak that had gone on for a couple weeks. My streaks died with COVID as I couldn't exercise for a while, but I'm back on track. I'm ready to go. After dinner, little dessert, couple drinks. It didn't happen, boys.
that red circle's only halfway in and not getting. Not getting the whole way around.
There was the red circle was a flaming ball of failure last night.
That's well done. I enjoy that as we bring you InGoal Radio, the podcast presented by The Hockey Shop, thehockeyshop.com, source for sports Surrey, and a lot going on around. I was keeping up to date with the Boxing Day sales and then the subsequent sales that came after that. Just following like the email that we get, and I click on it, and there's some really cool bargains out there.
Well, okay, so most of those there's two lessons here. Most of those were Boxing Week sale related. And as we explained to our American listeners, Boxing Day sales are kind of like your Black Friday sales, except now they extend a whole week. The only downside is by the time we record this, the Boxing Week sales have expired. So a lot of those things. So the two keys here. One, sign up. Go to thehockeyshop.com and sign up to get their email. Because then you would have been up to date on every item that was on sale this week. You would have gotten those updates as Darren did on a regular basis. You'll also be getting a new one for maybe Boxing Week sales over, but there's one part of that sale that's going to continue. And in fact, it's going to expand. Warrior V1 sticks. So these are the composite sticks that sort of initiated that rush in the National Hockey League of NHL goaltenders using Warrior sticks. Many of them still use the V1 stick. Cam has secured over 400 Warrior V1 sticks. Now there's multiple models. There's Pro, there's Pro Plus, there's Senior Plus. We've gone over them in videos in the past. We'll probably repost that link to an old review of all the different models. They're now all 30% off. So Cam got a smoking deal on a whole bunch of Warrior V1 sticks, lots of different patterns, paddle lengths, all kinds of options in stock now, 30% off The Hockey Shop, thehockeyshop.com. Make sure you go get yours early so you can get the paddle length and the pattern that you prefer, because as many as there are, they won't last at this price.
Can I ship Warrior across the border?
Warrior crosses the border, baby. So that's like 30% off plus the exchange rate. He's practically giving them away, folks.
That is great. And you're right. Warrior took over National Hockey League creases with that V1 model.
They did. Now, a little caveat. We've thrown it out here before. Like, just a reality check. Warrior's also one of only a couple of companies that have stick-only contracts for NHL goaltenders. So the goalies get paid to use those Warrior sticks, and there aren't very many other companies that pay you just to use a stick. But yeah, I mean, obviously guys aren't going to use them if they don't like them. They've done a nice job with the line. Hutch, I remember reviewing the original Ritual sticks way back in the day when they first went over to the composite. They've come a long way from there, and they were good at remember they used to have the dampening technology in the hand. They had an actual
right in the shaft.
I remember talking to the researchers where they'd actually calculated the vibration wavelengths that your hand feels and inserted a material in the shoulder of the stick that eliminated that wavelength. So in other words, like there was obviously going to be vibrations, but they weren't the vibrations that our hands feel. So a lot of cool tech has gone into it over the years, and Warriors, they've done a nice job with their sticks and sort of evolving their lines, playing catch up with the Bauers of the world and the CCMs of the world, and obviously doing a good job having an impact in the National Hockey League. And now you can get them at 30% off, and they're practically free if you're
Love
in
that. So 400 sticks, you'll be able to get your paddle length that you want, basically the color that you want. If you get on this right now, the pattern, the curve, it's all just waiting for you.
You can't buy all 400, Darren, though. You got to leave a little for the listeners.
Imagine that, having 400 sticks dropped off in front of the garage.
Wouldn't that be cool to have that arrive?
Mama might not be happy.
Hey, story time there. So one of the things that happened with Warrior when they went to complete composite, remember they had Warrior bought Montreal, the company that made the foam core sticks in Finland. I think it was Teppo Numinen's company at the time. And so they were making the most popular foam core stick in the National Hockey League by a long shot. When they closed that plant, I want to say top of my head around 2018, maybe a little later than that, they gave their NHLers a heads up. And you remember we had Colin Delia on. By the way, Colin Delia is starting as we record this today for the Chicago Blackhawks. Attaboy Deals getting the call up. And he was one of, I think, a handful of goalies that when the factory closed, they just, rather than sort of risk getting caught without, ordered 250 of his stick in that model. I remember him telling us that story, and I've since had it confirmed because I kind of updated the story recently for NHL.com. We'll have to throw a version up at InGoal Mag. There's only 3 left, 3 goalies left using foam core, and they're all using True because True is getting them made by a company and I'm cramping on the name right now. I had it in the story, but a company in Canada, sort of the last sort of foam core producers. But most of the guys, the Warrior guys, finally switched over. And so Colin is actually in that story about, having burned through those 250 sticks and switching finally over to a composite model. So only 3 left in the NHL. They are, boys, top of your head, who are the last 3 using foam core sticks in the National Hockey League? Darren will know one right away.
Darren knows one of them.
I can go first?
Yeah.
Okay. Rogie Vachon, Bernie Perrant, and Andy Moog.
No, they didn't even have foam in those things. Those were just solid slabs of wood.
Did I get Andy right?
It was your guy for years in Vegas.
Marc-Andre Fleury?
Yeah, Marc-Andre Fleury in Chicago's one of the 3. Hutch?
I could not. That's the only one I had.
Oh, come on. We need like Jeopardy music going on.
No, it's there. There. Yeah, it's already there.
That.
There it is. Can't you hear it?
Brian Elliott?
Ooh. And?
Come on, guys.
You sure it's not Andy Moog?
Pretty sure it's not Andy.
Curtis
Moog.
Curve?
Henrik Lundqvist.
No, remember we did a story
Curtis
on
Joseph.
Henrik Lundqvist switching.
He's not playing anymore, Kevin.
I know, but we did a story on him switching.
Kevin's trying to make it look like he's really smart, but
Kevin
I can see him trying to
forgot.
find out who the
That's
third
why
person
he's
is.
stalling,
Busted, buddy.
Kevin forgot this third guy. No, Dustin Tokarski.
Oh, really?
There you
Tick.
go.
Yeah, Tick's one of the last 3 to use them, and yeah, he's in the process of trying to switch over to the true ones because his Warrior ones are on their last leg. So, yeah, Kevin had a little brain cramp there. I was trying to get the cover with the music and make you guys look bad, but the truth is I had a brain fart.
Don't understand not adopting it because the technology and the feel is so great, but I'm not a professional goaltender and I don't have 500 wins. So I will default to Marc-Andre Fleury on this one.
He's trying some composites. He's tried a bunch and he's trying a bunch more right now. Actually, I think he got a new batch of composites from True this week. And so he's looking at it. But hey, as he told me a couple of years ago, like he's still got leather straps and metal buckles on his pads, and he knows that they add significant weight at a time when everyone's trying to get lighter. But as he said, he just needs something to stand out, right? Got to go old school sometime.
Got to be old. Nobody wants to be standing out right now because if you're standing out at this point of the season as we record this, it's not for a good thing. Gentlemen, I haven't even mentioned our feature interview this week. Stuart Skinner is going to join us on our Sense Arena feature interview. The Edmonton Oilers, he got the opportunity to be up in the National Hockey League for a significant time, and what an experience that was during the absence of Mike Smith. So we'll get into that in just a little bit. But if you're standing out in the National Hockey League right now, it's for all the wrong reasons. Arizona allowed 8. We had Tampa Bay surrender 9. San Jose gave up 7. And then a bunch of teams, including Edmonton and LA, were pulling the puck out of the net 6 times. There's a goal explosion. How do you explain what's happened to the goalies when just a couple of weeks ago we were raving about the league-wide save percentage and it's dropped off? And there's got to be some explanation in there at somewhere.
Well, okay, so there's a whole bunch of explanations, but I think the obvious one is I mushed it. Like absolutely mushed it. I wrote the story on December 3rd that save percentage had increased to .913 from .908 last year. It was the biggest it was on pace to be the biggest single season jump in 20 years. It was the first time in like 5 seasons it's gone up at all. And since then, it was actually almost .914 when I got the full math on it from the NHL. But since then, in the less than a month since then, it has dropped a full 2 points down to .911. So good job recognizing the trend, Kevin. Great job writing the story and jinxing everyone.
Hold on.
I think
it's
this
still
is
up significantly.
It's still up 3 points, but it was up almost 6.
Market correction.
And so
Market
in a
correction.
month,
It happens all the time, TSX.
But normally, save percentage is lower through the first quarter of a season and rises as the year goes on because teams tighten up defensively. Clearly, that hasn't happened. And I think the reality of it is it's COVID. It's teams dressing lineups that, aren't fully NHL lineups. The Montreal Canadiens, as we record this, are getting set to play the Florida Panthers with a roster that would not qualify as having enough NHL players in a preseason contest to meet the minimums. There are a lot of teams running on fumes. There are a lot of teams running out goaltenders they didn't plan to run out there because the starters and the backups get COVID. Tampa Bay gives up 9 to Florida the other day with Vasilevsky and Brian Elliott out on COVID protocol. And then also the night where there were like this, the Sharks had a 2-point conversion on their touchdown to beat Arizona 8-7, who only had they made the mistake of only going for 1 on their touchdown. That was like these teams are taking 10 days off.
That was out of the
it's
the
not a
holiday
normal
break.
3-day Christmas break. Yeah, it's like they're not used to coming back after 2 weeks off, and systems are loose. Players aren't the same. It's not the same National Hockey League, and I think a lot of the stats are going to be all over the place as a result.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but in that 8-7 game, San Jose over Arizona, Arizona never led, which is bizarre when you score 7 goals that you don't find at some point a way to lead. And I think both goaltenders played the whole game. Which is crazy too. That coaches, whether you don't have the backup that you would normally put in, because that's what comes into this play too. You might have somebody from the ECHL or the American Hockey League that's down the depth chart as your backup that you just don't want to throw in there. So the guy who starts is the guy that's going to finish. And if you're having a bad night, that bad night's going to last the whole night.
Well, and James Reimer was the victim of the San Jose net of giving up the Arizona 7. He went from, I believe, like at or in the top 3 of the league at 937 all the way to 928 in one game. Like you don't recover quickly from an 8 or 9 goal game. Like it dents the stat. So, as odd as these circumstances are, like it could have a significant impact on, things like Vezina races and things like that. If you're a goalie that gets stuck in one of these games with a no-name defense or a team that's just not ready to play coming off of, an extended Christmas break, like it could make the difference between a great season and a good season and a bad season, at least statistically. Like we've talked to Curtis McElhenney, right? Like he got stuck behind a couple tough outings for the Tampa Bay Lightning in a backup role last year. He had no chance for his statistics to recover from that. Just no chance at all.
Yeah, certainly for a backup. I mean, Rhymes still sitting at 928. I'd take that any day of the week. And he's going to play enough games that I think that's going to recover. But surely, Kevin, the general managers pour through the stats with a fine-tooth comb when selecting the Vezina Trophy winner each year. And we can trust that they'll do a good job, won't they?
Yeah, don't get them started because those I lean on those guys for information.
I like to get them ranting.
And I want them to be my
trying to wind me up.
I want those guys to still be my friends. And every time Kevin goes on one of these rants, those guys get mad at me.
Idiots.
Those managers. So, are we seeing more goaltenders then? When I talk about guys being called up, whether it's the ECHL or the National Hockey League leaning on the American Hockey League, are we seeing more guys?
I think so. I think we're up to 93 goaltenders have played a little bit so far this season, which is roundabout where we tend to be towards the end of the season. Last year, I forget, was it 98, something like that, full season. When we go back a couple of years, I know they finished around 93. So, I mean, it's not extraordinary, but we've still got a long way to go here. And we're at a season length of goaltenders. So that obviously means there's guys that wouldn't normally be getting starts that are getting in there, just supporting exactly what Woody said.
And some teams just go on these run. Vegas in their first year ended up using 5-6 guys because of injury. And that was not even a COVID year. You just end up, there's the odd season where you have to go through your entire system or acquire players. I mean, we've already seen that with John Gillies. One day he's playing in the ECHL and the next day he's in the National Hockey League and being traded because just teams need goaltenders. Any idea?
Well, hey, if you think it's big in the NHL, we were talking about it earlier off camera. ECHL, man, trickle down effect. American Hockey League, ECHL. Like I wish I had an ECHL team here in Vancouver because I'd be applying for a job as the goaltender. There have been some remarkable e-bug stories coming out this year. Hutch, you had one where a goalie had to borrow equipment. We had another one. We had a goalie back for Christmas holidays from university. He ends up not only getting the call to go play for the local ECHL team, he wins as the starter. Like just crazy stuff.
I think that might have been the same one. He had to borrow equipment because he was home on holidays.
Insane.
Not many of us would hop into a beer league game on borrowed equipment.
Well, I need both sticks.
For sure.
The SPHL, the ECHL, they've been left with just bare bones in the closet when it comes to resources to get players and play games. COVID's one stuff.
Oh, the trickle down has got to be incredible. Darren, you've faced NHL shooters now. You're ready. Get in there. Somebody's got to want Darren. If there's a minor pro team looking for a goaltender tonight, fly in Darren.
Would love that. I'm going to be perfectly honest with you. I can't afford the pay cut. Not from InGoal Radio, the podcast. With what I'm making here, I can't afford the pay cut to go. And I would love to get my name on the game sheet and be able to do it, but sorry guys, got to look after the kids. Kids got to eat.
Darren, if you have to miss a week, we will keep your exorbitant salary up just so that you can go play pro. Heck, that means we could interview you. We could do pro reads with you. We could do pro tips. We could milk this.
Could you imagine doing a pro read?
Go do
with me and Woody.
Oh, mine would be like, well, you see, I dropped here because my eyes were closed there.
Yeah, no, but that's the scary thing is Woody would have a very in-depth description of why he did everything just before he fell on his ass.
I threw in a 2-pad stack for the boys last week, just after Christmas. And there was like hoots and hollers from the coaches and the players. Half the players were giggling because they thought I might have fallen. And the other half were like, that was a cool 2-pad stack. So we'd have some fun in some pro reads.
We would have an awesome time. I'd want to bring in the veteran one. In fact, I think Kelly Rudy already agreed that he'd do one with us, so we can go back and look at some of those 1970 saves. We got to just pull the tape. But you and Woody would be spectacular, and we have to do it someday. We just need video. Somebody in the stands when Darren's doing a game day skate or something like that has to pull it.
We know the impact on teams, because we've seen so many of our friends who have joined us on InGoal Radio, the podcast, end up on National Hockey League rosters. And one of those is Stuart Skinner, who has been knocking on the door, and because of the injury to Mike Smith, got to spend an extended time period up with Dave Tippett and the big club, and an opportunity to work with the National Hockey League coaches and face National Hockey League shooters, and then also get into National Hockey League games, Woody. And here's our feature interview brought to you by Sense Arena. Just set it up before want to get Hutch's update on Sense Arena.
I think that everything you described there is actually, it almost more applies to last year. Like last year was the year where the injury got him the opportunity. He only played one game, but he was up with the team. And as you'll hear in this interview, he got into a game, he won his game. But it was how eye-opening that was for him in terms of the steps that he had to take. And then full credit to Stuart, the steps he did take going back to the American Hockey League last season, having his best run in that league, and earning the opportunity this year to really prove that he's an NHL goaltender. And he has. He's proven he's ready for the National Hockey League. And it wasn't just in this run recently, which I think finished with a .916 save percentage over the course of, I want to say off the top of my head, 9 games during this recent run, but even back to preseason. The work, what he did last year, and then the work he did going back after the single game opportunity in the NHL, earned him the opportunity to play more in the preseason. And he looked like an NHL goalie, like there was a step taken here. And so getting a chance to dig in with Stuart on that process and what led to that step from last year to this year is a big part of this interview. And there's a lot of great things that every goalies at every level can glean from it. It's not just about an opportunity this year. It's about making the most of the learning lessons from a smaller opportunity last year, so that when it came around this year, he was 100% prepared.
And one of those areas where you can capitalize on the lessons and the experiences is to lean on Sense Arena VR, Hutch.
For sure. I could imagine that Stuart Skinner would be the kind of guy that might use it. You know, guys, I actually was on the ice with him. I want to say he was a 16-year-old. He was coming off, I think, his first year in the Western Hockey League. I'm going to get some of this wrong. He was at Eli Wilson's prospects camp in Toronto. And, you know, those camps are filled with Western Hockey League, Ontario Hockey League guys, NCAA guys. And still, around Skinner, there was sort of this aura that there was something special there. The way he carried himself, the way people sort of, the way he owned the net was really, really impressive. And 2 things stood out for me. One was at that young age, directing the shooters, these, again, NCAA Western League shooters, and just saying, no, you're not doing the drill right. You're doing this for me. Here's what I need you to do. And that sort of strength of character at such a young age stood out to me. And then the other one was, again, a camp littered with guys that want to do all the work to make the next level. As everybody else has skated off the ice, there's Stuart after a 2-hour ice session doing skating patterns alongside the boards as the Zamboni is circling around the net. So he was something special in terms of how he approached the game as a youngster. And I think everybody knew that he was going places. So I was super excited to hear this interview. And I think a lot of that really comes through. So thanks for making that happen, Woody. But I also want to thank our friends at Sense Arena for making that happen. So many units of that Oculus and the Sense Arena software were delivered over the holidays, are probably arriving now for those folks who got in those gift orders just recently. Got to be an exciting time as they arrive. And resolutions. If you've got a resolution to improve your goaltending, if you want to make something happen, it's not easy to do that by finding ice and getting out there and skating. We don't all have that intensity of Eric Comrie that he can go out to a stick and puck and just do crease movement patterns, as we heard in his interview here. You probably want to do something at home. So maybe you're resolving to spend 10 minutes, 15 minutes a day working on your goaltending at home, and there's nothing better than Sense Arena. You can do some cognitive drills. You can study power plays. You can work on some basic skills with your hands. You can learn about box control. You can see how your position in the net is affecting the area that you're covering. You can replay the saves you're making. There's so many things you can do at home with Sense Arena that, frankly, you can't even do on the ice today. What an incredible tool that we have available to us. And I think this is the year for people to take advantage of the opportunity that Sense Arena is giving all of us to become better goaltenders.
All this time, we've talked about it earlier, all these NHL goaltenders that are having these, whether it's they're in isolation or their teams are shut down and the Christmas break's extended. I guarantee you guys like Eric Comrie, Pavel Francouz, who's coming back and is going to be a massive part of the Colorado Avalanche second half. These guys are Sense Arena users, Philip Grubauer, and I guarantee you when they get that downtime, they're using it on Sense Arena to help themselves stay sharp when they can't get on the ice, whether it's because of isolation or because the team's been shut down for a while. So this is a tool that goes all the way up to the National Hockey League, but the beauty of it is you can use it in your basement at 8 years old or in your nice apartment after you've made the show. It works for everyone.
And every time I hear Hutch talk, I end up using my Sense Arena about 20 minutes after we have this conversation because it just gets me going. It inspires me. And box control, that's the one I keep going back to, box control, and trying to fine tune that area. And that's an area that Stuart Skinner has worked on, the speed, the pace, the shooters, and the eye-opening experience of playing in his first NHL game and then getting his first NHL win, and then going back and trying to double down on everything and make sure that he's ready for the next time around should he get the extended look, and that has happened. It's Stuart Skinner, our feature interview brought to you by Sense Arena on InGoal Radio, the podcast.
I'm really excited to welcome to the InGoal Radio podcast for the first time, Stuart Skinner of the Edmonton Oilers organization, currently down with Bakersfield. And I actually want to talk about that because sounds like a whirlwind trip. I saw some of the videos of you rolling up to the rink. Walk me through your last 24 hours. Like, we get Mike Smith comes back, you go down, but like how much time did you have? Like, I feel like almost like that was beer league level, the guy running into the rink late, except you're doing it as a pro.
Yeah, no, it was been a crazy few days here. Right when I got sent down, had a 5:30 flight to Vancouver, and then was supposed to hit the plane at I think 8:45 or something like that. But obviously, both of those got delayed, so I ended up staying the night in Vancouver. Woke up at around 4:30 a.m. The next day to get a COVID test, because otherwise, if you don't show a negative test, you can't, especially going cross border, you can't fly out. So yeah, woke up pretty early, got a test, went and had some breakfast, got the test results back, went through all the customs and all that. And then my flight that was supposed to be at 8:45 a.m. got delayed 3.5 hours. So we were kind of struggling there. Finally got on the plane, rushed all my gear, all my luggage, to get in the car. And our driver, Bakersfield, he did a fantastic job ripping through the highways and but doing it very safely. And no, it was great. It was a lot, pretty crazy. Kind of just drove 2.5 hours basically from LA airport to Bakersfield. Got there. They said I had 15 minutes to get dressed and to get on the ice for warm up.
Okay, so what's your normal routine? Like, how long would you normally go from? You'd probably have a whole thing you do, dynamic warm up, which you're probably not able to do in the back of the car. Visual warm ups. Like, what's your routine? And then, how long does it normally take you to get your gear on? I'm not sure I can get my gear on in 15 minutes, and I'm like Velcro head to toe.
I can get dressed in about 10 minutes, I'd say.
Okay,
10 minutes. I'm fully dressed, ready to go on the ice. Yeah, my routine is definitely a little bit longer than 15 minutes. I would say right when I got in the car, actually, I told my driver, I was like, I'd normally be getting to the rink right now. So it's if it's a 7:00 game, I'm usually at the rink at 4:15, 4:30. Yeah, I have a routine, just like kind of get to the rink, kind of hang out, have a coffee, talk to the guys, just kind of chat and enjoy some Zen time, I guess you could say, kind of just relaxing and just being at the rink, take my sticks, get my Under Armour on, and just roll out, stretch, kind of do whatever I need to do to make the body feel good, and go play some Stuart ball. That's kind of about it, to be honest.
Okay, so now like last night, we've heard guys talk about this over the years. Quite often guys will arrive to pro with a big long list of things that they do, and sometimes that routine can get a little complex. But the nature, especially of the minor leagues, is, bus rides and delays, and sometimes you have to be able to do what you did last night. Is there value there? What lessons have you learned? Have you ever had anything like that before, where lessons about, I do all these things normally, but sometimes you just got to go out and play?
Yeah, absolutely. I learned that probably more so second year pro, but right when I got to the pro level, I was definitely a couple learning curves. Especially my first year in the East Coast, it was like nothing's planned there, or like you do plan obviously, but the bus broke down a couple times, and a whole bunch of stuff kind of happens. And I was kind of the same way, honestly, going into like Bantam Junior. I would be, I got to do this, I got to do that, pretty very like in a routine base before games. And when I got to the pro, you just kind of figure it out a little bit that, you don't need to do certain things in order to play good. It's more so what happens on the ice that's going to determine how everything goes. And that's my belief now anyways, is kind of just going with the flow, and, things are going to happen, and crazy things are, life just gets crazy sometimes, and, things don't go as planned. And that's when you need to be able to perform well and perform at your best. And I think it's just, it's definitely helped me. And it was a lot of learning to get here. And I'm happy that I was able to get through all of it to, play well yesterday in my situation that I was in.
What kind of things have you discarded? Because I think of Junior, and we've seen, and we're guilty at InGoal, right? Every time someone shares a part of their routine, something that might be new, whether it's juggling or guys are using virtual reality now before games, like we're always sharing it. I worry sometimes that we give all these kids so many different things. If they were to do all of them, it might take 3 hours.
Yeah.
What are some of the ones that you've shed over the years, and what are some of the things that, outside of a unique situation like last night, that you want to make sure you keep?
Yeah. Last night with the certain amount of time, I wasn't able to keep anything.
Of
so
course.
I kind of just went on the ice and did my thing. But I've everything, your routine before a game kind of always changes throughout the years. I feel like my first year pro to this year, which is 3-4 years, I guess, has been, every single year has been completely different into routines, how I feel like going on the ice, and like what I think I need to do in order to get ready. One thing I've always kept is juggling, like juggling on the wall, just a little bit of ball work about 5 minutes before I start getting dressed to kind of get my eyes going, my hand eye going, and tracking and all that. So I've always kept that into it. Some years I feel good visualizing before games, some years I don't. So now I've kind of gotten to a place where I'm just like, however I feel that day, I'm gonna kind of do that. So if I feel like I need to visualize before the game, I'll visualize, and if I don't, that's totally okay. And so I've just kind of been kind of going with the flow a little bit more. Just whatever my day brings me, go with it. I mean, sometimes you want to nap for 2 hours, but sometimes your dog barks at certain times. You wake up and you just you can't let that determine whether you're going to play well in 3 hours or not. So I think that's where I got kind of mentally frustrated, is if something didn't go perfectly in my routine, like a great 1.5 hour sleep or anything like that. I would kind of be like, oh, like now I feel bad. And, now you start mentally kind of, doubting yourself, where you just like, oh yeah, it's okay. It's part of the day, and let's get on with it and play some hockey.
Oh, I want to talk to you a lot about this year, about your opportunity last year, but you mentioned visualization there. So I wanted to ask, because this is all goalies listening to this. Everybody sort of has, like I said, different routines, different things they do. When you talk about visualization, Stuart, what is it to you? Are you picturing the game ahead? Like what an opposing power play, maybe some video you've looked at? Are you looking through your mind's eye at past performances of yourself? Are you watching yourself making saves? If a young goalie were to ask you, how do you do visualization? What is it for you?
Yeah, I think for me, I visualize kind of every situation, and what I mean by every situation is saves, goals against, bad plays, good plays, broken down plays, kind of stuff like that. The game isn't perfect; doesn't go perfect every night. So I visualize, how I react to a goal, staying even keel and drinking some water and kind of just visualize, getting reset for the next shot. And then for the most part, I visualize just kind of plays happening in zone off the rush, just seeing myself make the save, tracking the puck, feeling the puck, smelling the ice. You could do a lot with it, just feeling the puck kind of go into your glove slowly. And, you feel that so it's a lot of feeling, a lot of visual, smells, listening, like hearing the puck hit the pad. All the goalies listening obviously know that feeling and know that sound and all of that. So that's kind of how I visualize.
Now, are you just sitting still doing this? And I'm sorry for all the questions, but again, there's a lot of young goalies that, they haven't had an opportunity to work with sports psychologists. They don't, so they wonder, how do I do this? Right? Like, are you just sitting on a bench? Could this be in the locker room before a game, just eyes closed? Are you, when you're making and seeing yourself make that glove save, are you actually moving your hands? How does that work?
I kind of just sit still and let my brain do all the work. I normally don't, move with it or anything like that. And for me, it just depends, when I want to do it. Right. Sometimes I want to do it in the rink. Sometimes I want to lay down and do it. Sometimes I do it before I take my nap, which sometimes isn't the best idea because I get fired up for the game. So, I think it just depends who you are, what time you feel is best for you. And I think visualization is a huge part of, just feeling good going into the game.
I want to talk to you about this year. The opportunity with Mike injured to go up there and play some games with the Oilers, have a lot of success recently. How do you feel right now? You must be feeling good about your game and how everything's gone. Like, what's the mindset right now coming off of your first extended taste of the National Hockey League?
Yeah, it was an amazing experience. Just being able to play a few NHL games has been, obviously a dream come true. And especially with the Oil jersey and being from Edmonton is pretty cool. I was super happy with, how everything went. I feel like just after like a few game experiences, you kind of go through a lot of different scenarios. Like my first game, I mishandled the puck and goal went in, and then you get a amazing shootout victory against Winnipeg, and you let in a couple weak goals, and just the whole thing kind of happened. And I think it was just it was such a great learning experience for me to kind of just see how the game is played in the NHL level, being able to see how the guys are. It's an everyday league, and I think that was just a huge learning lesson for me, is that it's every single day, and the schedule is every second day you're playing a game, and being able to recover, being able to rest, everything you do is so important to perform at the best, at your best level. And it was a lot of fun. I had a blast being out there and being able to get a couple wins too. It was a lot of fun.
Do you, all those lessons, the positives and some of the other moments that you might like to do differently looking back, like, are you able in your first taste with all the excitement that comes with it? And I know you played a game last year, but your first extended taste, you're there for a long period. Is it hard sometimes to detach from the moment and go back and review and learn lessons from both positive and negatives when you're playing well, see what it looks like? What's that process like with goalie coach Dustin Schwartz, the two of you sort of making sure that you're consistently building on both sides of the scale, all the while you're probably just, really excited to be there kind of thing?
Yeah, absolutely. Especially after the first game, you kind of just want to, enjoy everything. And after every game, really, especially when you win, you want to enjoy it. there's definitely a time for you to enjoy the game and enjoy the win or the good experiences, but you also got to think about the learning moments in the games. And I think that's what Schwartzy and I do. I think Schwartzy just does a fantastic job on being able to, put me through video and talk to me after the game. He usually just talks to me after the game and we kind of just chat about, certain little things and little details. And it's honestly not a ton about hockey. It's just more about, how I'm doing and everything like that. And then he usually gives me a day and then we start doing video the next day. I think sometimes it's good to let your emotions kind of subside after the game. Sometimes it can be a little too high, sometimes too low. I remember after my one game in Seattle, I was a little bit frustrated with how I played, and all I wanted to do was watch video to figure it out and learn and grow from the experience. And sure, she was just like, yeah, we'll do video tomorrow, or maybe even the next day. So it's just being able to get away from those emotions and just watch your video from a perspective of, I'm not mad that this happened, or I'm not happy that happened, but just, really seeing it for how it is and being able to grow from that.
A little more objectively. I mean, you mentioned Seattle, that's coming off a win too.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I got to ask about the year before too, because you're up there at the beginning of the year again. Mike was hurt, so it's such a weird. It's funny because it feels like 2 years ago. All the seasons are kind of like time is a weird circle right now, with the lockouts or the pauses, the COVID, all the lockdowns and everything. But you're there at the start. You watched Mikko play a whole bunch of games. You finally get into one. Your first taste of the National Hockey League in your hometown. Were the emotions like that night? And what was you win? What was your immediate response after? Like, what was your first thought after getting that win?
First thought after getting that win was, you did it. You played an NHL game. It was a dream come true. And just a really, really cool moment to be able to play my first NHL game. I remember it like it was yesterday. I mean, it was just a year ago, so it is still fairly fresh. But it was a lot of fun. I was very nervous all day. My the emotions were pretty high and pretty anxious. The night before, didn't get too much sleep. Just kind of thinking about, wow, this is pretty cool. You get to play your first NHL game, and when you kind of get to the rink, you kind of calm down a little bit because you're around the guys. You get to talk to them and kind of just enjoy being at the rink, just like any other day. And I think we did a great job being able to, that I was able to back up for, a long period of time really helped me get into a rhythm of kind of just the routine of the team and like the meetings and all that, and being able to kind of just prepare myself when I was backing up so that when I did play, I was, it felt right. It felt like I knew what I was doing, and being able to go on the ice was pretty cool. I wish that we, had all the fans and my parents and family could have been able to be there, but it was still a really, really special and cool moment for me. And getting the win was just a cherry on top.
Now, it's still your hometown, even without the fans. Was it extra because it was in Edmonton, or the fact there were no fans there last year? Did it in any way make it easier to detach from that? It's such a weird year for everyone.
Yeah. I think for me in that first game, obviously I was still pretty pumped. Super, super excited. I think it's so different without fans. I feel like, just kind of the feeling of the atmosphere, the cheers, the boos, everything. When you get scored on, you really feel that from the crowd too. And sometimes it feeds you, and, getting a goal that feeds you too, and kind of gets you pumped up. And I felt like, with no fans, it's kind of, sometimes it's just, quiet, is probably the right word to say, is just because there's no fans cheering for you, or you make a big save and, there's not really a lot of people standing up and clapping for you. So, so there's a little bit of that, but at the same time, all you're really focused on in the moment is the win. So in the moment, you're not thinking about the fans, you're thinking about, getting excited or the adrenaline or anything like that. You're just trying to find a way to win. And I think the part where you kind of see where there's no fans is after the final buzzer goes and you kind of just get off the ice with the win. It would have been fun to, see everybody going nuts and, just being part of that first victory.
I want to ask you about getting a chance to do it again in Edmonton with your family there and what that's been like this year. But I still want to stick with that game a little longer because as much as the emotion and the elation of your first National Hockey League win, your first National Hockey League game, Schwartzy told me that, coming out of that game, there was also like an element of, I don't want to paraphrase it wrong because I can't remember how he said it, but also a realization that there was some work to do within your own game. And it's, when I look at that game and then I look at the results in the American Hockey League, obviously I'm not watching you on an everyday basis, so I don't know what it was, but it seemed like from there on, you just kept climbing. And can you walk us through that process and maybe what that conversation was like after that? Because yeah, you've got that joy, but also it feels like there was maybe a turning point there for you from the outside.
Definitely. Being part of the first NHL experience, you kind of just see how the games kind of ran a little bit and how the players are, how fast the game is. It's very different. It's a very different type of game of what I thought, anyways, in my perspective. And after that, yeah, I think we won like 8-5 or 9-5 or something like that. So it's not like I played outstanding. It was, there's definitely.
Never criticize a win, man, especially in the National Hockey League in your debut. But yeah, I think it was 8-5.
Yeah. So there's definitely a lot of work for me to do. I think a lot of it was, being on the PK and the speed of the game and how, the passengers flying off, one touches and, the guys can move the puck really well and very efficiently and with a lot of detail to it. So just being able to play smarter, I think, came out of the conversation after that game. Just being able to, think about the game a little bit more in a faster pace. Being set earlier, making sure that I'm not late to passes, east to west plays, being able to beat that on my feet. I think a big part of it was my skating. I think, Schwartzy and I have really, really worked on my skating habits and, my edge control. We do things every single morning. Even when I was up the past 2 months, every single morning we would start with, a little bit of skating, a little bit of edge work. And, being able to go from elevated to ready, from ready to elevated and, all the different types of plays. So Schwartzy's been an absolute huge help with me. And that was actually probably the first thing or second thing Schwartzy said to me. The first thing was, congrats, that's awesome. Like, so happy you got to win. And then him and I both looked at each other and we both kind of had that look in our eyes. We were like, we got some work to do, just to grow and get better so that I'm able to stay there. I will say after that game though, getting scored on 5 times and knowing that there was a lot of growth for me to take got me super, super excited. So I couldn't wait to get on the ice the next day because all I wanted to do was just work on the things that Schwartzy and I were talking about so that one day I could, potentially stay in the NHL.
Now, pace is one thing that I hear a lot of guys talk about in the National Hockey League now, especially with the amount of east-west. And as you said on the PK, like seams and it's just, the game's never been faster, especially side to side. Yeah. You mentioned elevated to set stances. Is beating plays in that elevated stance, has that become part of it, a narrower stance for you and being able to beat plays around the ice through a narrower stance? Or is there's probably more to it than that, but can you expand a little bit on, what you did as a goaltender? It's probably, in some ways, every young goalie goes through this as they move up the levels. It always gets faster. Now, obviously, the NHL is a whole different animal, but what you do to get faster? What'd you do to keep up to that pace?
Yeah, I think for Schwartzy and I, it was just being more aware as a goalie. I think for me, at moments, I was so focused on taking, just that one shot that I was, completely stuck on being square to him, even though that I didn't necessarily need to be that square, just like the angle of the puck to the net. I didn't have to take that much ice. So just being able to, that's kind of what I mean by, playing a little bit smarter is, know when to take your ice, know when not to, just so you can kind of beat pucks or beat the pass on your feet or, kind of just scenarios like that. I think being able to narrow my stance just gave me a lot more leg power. So ever since Schwartzy and I talked about, just narrowing the stance, kind of being a little bit taller, with my legs anyways, really helped me being able to, it just helped my skating. I think it just improved my skating, improved my edge work, improved my, turning to, make my T push to, east to west and gave me more power. So I think narrowing my stance down would just really improve my skating and then just being able to play it out from there, knowing where guys are so that I can kind of, understand that, I can take my ice there, but, maybe not there.
So a lot of it's reads and patterns. It's interesting too. You talk about, narrowing the stance and beating plays and all those elements. It sounds like there's a learning curve in terms of just the game being different as well. And yet I would imagine when you get to the NHL and it's the best shooters in the world, you probably want to feel like you're in save execute. You know what I mean? Your first time, you probably want to feel like you need to be in save execution stance all the time. And yet, as we know, if you get too tense or you get too wide, that's when you can't move.
Absolutely. I learned that very, very quickly. It was like I think it was probably 5 minutes in on the power play. They were moving the puck so fast, like faster, obviously, than I have ever been used to. And I got wide a couple times, couldn't really move. And then I was so deep in my net when they did end up shooting, and he beat me, just clean top glove. And I just I remember after that goal and then looking down and seeing me like on the goal line, basically, because I was so wide, I couldn't move, I couldn't push. And if it wasn't east to west, I had to slide to get there. I couldn't beat it on my feet. So you're just a lot slower. Well, for me anyways, I'm a lot slower when my legs get a little too wide. So, that was a huge topic that me and Schwartzy talked about that was just able to, I think that it elevated my game quite a bit.
Well, and I would think that would be natural. Like I said, like you go up a level, these are these shooters, you're going to naturally want to sort of be a little more, like it's almost human nature to try and be more alert, more, but that's also, like you said, wide
Absolutely.
intention and all those things. So were you able to get away with some of those things in the AHL before? Like you go back to the AHL, does the realization of the pace you had to play with, did you start to apply things differently when you went back last season? Because again, it looked like there was a progression even when you went back.
Absolutely. After that game, Schwartz and I had that conversation. We were able to practice once, and then I think a day later, 2 days later, I got sent down. So being able to just to take that feedback that Schwartzy gave me and really, really take in the learning lessons that I got to learn just from one game of experience, I was able to, understand, really want to imply that in the game in the AHL, no matter how the game is played in the American Hockey League. So coming down here, just really, emphasizing and really implying that, keep my stance narrow and, really focus on what's going to make me essentially get me to the next level and get to the NHL. I just kind of came down with that mindset on just keep on improving at the level that I want to play at. And I think that I was able to help me play better in the American Hockey League as well.
So you get you know what it's going to take to get up there, but I'm guessing there's an excitement too. Like you said, you couldn't wait to get back on the ice. That do you still feel that? Like, is there still that excitement right through last season into the off season? Yeah.
Oh yeah, big time. Even going down yesterday, even though like with the hard travel and with like 15 minutes to get dressed, all I was thinking like in the car ride, especially when we were getting closer to Bakersfield, I was just thinking I can't wait to play today just to like get better and just to work on my game that I've been able to work on in the last 2 months. With the NHL experience that I got to have and. Also the time I was able to be with Schwartzy, I was pumped to play yesterday.
Okay. I got to ask about another influence on you when you were up here. Cause I was at a morning skate here in Vancouver. The team was here. You backed up Mikko, But Mike was on the trip. This was, I think, early in the injury, but he was skating. It looked like he was on his way back. I don't have the date in front of me. But you were out there for a long time. It was a morning skate. And Mike was out there at the other end for a long time. And at some point, he just started watching you. And then you guys came to the bench. And I wish I had a microphone because you guys sat there and talked and talked and talked. I'm not going to ask you for the secret conversation with Mike Smith, but what's it been like to have him as a mentor? Because I know, I've heard he's watched and he's been impressed and sounds like he's taken an active role in that side of things.
Yeah, absolutely. He's first and foremost, he's one of the best guys ever. He's just such a really good person. And you can really tell that he cares about you. He's a great teammate, and he's also a great leader. He's been a huge part in me just being able to grow my game for myself. He's helped me a lot with just conversations on the mental side of the game. And, a lot of what we talked about, in this call, just, things aren't going to be perfect. Flights are going to get delayed and you're not going to be able to get sleep some nights. You're not going to be able to get your perfect nap and all that kind of stuff, and being able to play through that. And yeah, he's been a huge help with me, not only on the mental side, but also on, the physical side, the skating part of the game. Him and I talk quite a bit actually on the ice. After every practice, we kind of go into the stretch, and then we go to the bench and we just start drinking water and we start talking about hockey and start talking about the game and what he thinks I could do better, and what he's been working on, and what he's learned through his experience. I mean, he's been playing for a long time, and pretty amazing that he's still performing at such a high level. I mean, he's playing so well, especially being here in Edmonton too. Like, he's been amazing to watch, and there's so much that I can learn from him.
I'm guessing, maybe I'm wrong here, this is a wild guess, but did you, after the Detroit game, did he reach out to you? I'm not sure if he would have been on the road, but you mentioned the puck handle, the turnover the puck. I remember having this conversation with him, a very young Mike Smith and Marty Turco in the locker room of the Dallas Stars, about not stopping when it doesn't work, about not being afraid to make a mistake with the puck. When the puck handle goes wrong, the last thing you want to do is stop doing it. Was that a conversation you guys had after that?
It was, yeah. He was there. And after we kind of went on the bus, and then I think we went on the plane. I could be wrong about that, but we were doing something. We were traveling, and I saw a text from him saying, "Hey man, keep your head up." Basically the same thing. And when a play like that happens, the next time you get a chance to play the puck, make sure you play it. Never stop playing the puck. You're going to screw up every once in a while, especially if you want to be a good puck handler. Like, sometimes you're going to fan on the puck. Sometimes, crap happens. So never be scared to make a mistake. That's kind of the thing, is don't be afraid to make a mistake. And if you do, learn from it, grow, and keep moving forward.
No, I don't know much about, obviously I know a little bit about your game. I was at the program of excellence when Schwartzy first saw you before they even drafted you, which is this has all come full circle. I remember him, running drills with you back in that camp before you were an Edmonton Oiler or a member of the Oilers organization. So what I don't know though is, has puck handling always been a strength of yours? Because I look up the history, and like, not many guys have a goal in the WHL, but you do.
Yeah, I've always really tried to be a good puck handler. I've worked on it a lot throughout the years. I remember when I was really young, my dad would always say, being a goalie, you can also be like a third defenseman and, really help out your team, being able to play the puck and, make the right plays and make the game, easier for the defenseman. So just being able to work on my puck handling, I basically work on it every single day, in any which way. And, you just keep on working on it. And I think it can be a huge help for a team. It can help out the defensemen, can help out the forwards, can help out the breakouts. So I think it's a big part of the game now, and being able to be in a position that I'm in to watch, the best puck handler in the world for a goalie, Smitty, is pretty cool, and I'm pretty excited, and I'm very, very grateful that I get to watch him, throughout these couple of years.
I got two more for you because I've taken up more time than which is a habit. I apologize, but what's it like?
No worries.
You get up there, and even that first stint last year, as much as you only got the one game, you were up there for a while before you got it. You're facing Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl in practice every day. It feels like almost like a cliched question to ask a goalie, but I'm sure every young goalie in the world wants to know, like, what's that like to see those shots over and over and over again? Do you have to, as good as they are at times, do you have to sort of compartmentalize the results and just look at it as an opportunity to get better? Because they do things with the puck that frankly leave me shaking my head, as do a lot of NHLers, but clearly those guys are next level. What's that like?
Yeah. Well, I mean, us talking about, me having to get used to the pace of play and how fast the game's played. I mean, you're up against the fastest player in the world. So that definitely helps, get into the pace that you want to get into. And these players they're just special players. It's pretty amazing to see what they can do, not only in practice, but in games. I am very, very grateful that I was able to be on the ice with them every single day for the past 2 months. And also in the summertime, Leo comes down early and starts shooting on me throughout the summer. And I think it's just big, especially how I want to make my way to be an NHL goaltender full time. And the best way to do that is to get the best shots and the best players to, work on that with. So being able to have the two best players in the world and also just an amazing group of talented hockey players with some amazing shots, amazing plays, amazing IQ. I mean, not only those guys, but everyone on the Oilers, you're playing against the best players in the world. Those are the top guys that the NHL has been able to find. So it's pretty special. It's hard. It's they definitely make my life not easy. And you kind of just look at it as a way to get better. The first time, I will say that the first time practicing against those two guys was you're definitely nervous and you're kind of like, but you're also in a good spot because if you get scored on, you're like, okay, the best player in the world just scored on me. And if you stop it, you're feeling pretty good. But now it's a little bit different after being with them for a little bit. You're kind of just practicing, seeing ways that you can do better. Obviously playing with McDavid's his skating ability and his puck handling ability. I mean, McKinnon's a very fast player, so you kind of just think of, okay, how do I react to a fast skating player like this? And then, when you see that from McKinnon or other, really speedy guys from the league, you understand that speed, you understand where you have to be in those types of situations. So they're a huge help for growth as a goalie.
And last one, speaking of special, you finally get a chance to play in Edmonton in front of family. I mean, how many people were there, and what's that moment like? And what's it like to be at the end of it against a pretty damn good Jets team, 47-48, and you win in the shootout? Like, no slouches in the shootout either. You talk about McDavid and Draisaitl, like the Jets are loaded. Kyle Connor scares me as a goaltender, frankly. You come out on the right end of that, like 47-48, first time with family in the stands, to get that win in your hometown. Like, can you sum up what that night was like, what the emotions were like, what that meant to you and your family?
It was a very special night. I mean, growing up in Edmonton, you're growing up watching the Oilers every single day. They're always on TV every night, watching it with my dad, my brothers, my sisters, my mom, everybody. So, and I have a huge family too. So
I was going to ask, like, do you have like 7 or 8 siblings? 7?
8 siblings.
8 siblings.
There's 9 kids. Yeah. Yeah. So it was almost like game nights is what we call them. And we get chips and, pop and, we'd all sit down and watch an Oilers game. And it was so much fun. I mean, growing up, you're kind of just like, wow, I want to be Dwayne Rolson. I want to be, Habib Bull and, wearing the Edmonton logo. So being able to play in front of my family, my dad, my mom, my wife, my brother Sheldon, my sister Shannon, my sister Shannon's husband, Adam. We got we got a pretty good sized crew there for my first game in front of them at home, anyways, and it was pretty cool just being able to think, growing up, I've always dreamed of being an Oiler, and so did my parents, and they were able to watch me play against the Winnipeg Jets, and being able to get a win, especially in a shootout too. Like that's a perfect way to win. So it was a very special night.
Oh, I forgot about the old Smythe Division rivals, right? Like that was an old heyday rivalry, and I've got to imagine you take from that not only your ability to perform at such a high level that night, but to detach yourself from all those other elements and focus on the task at hand had to be like, there must be, I don't know if it's satisfaction is the right word, but just hey man, like if I can do this under this moment, under this pressure with everything that you just described attached to a single game, that's got to be a pretty positive reinforcement of your ability to really lock in.
Absolutely. I think for myself, I think one of the biggest things that I learned coming out of these, not just that game, but all the games that I was able to play the last couple months was, that there's more belief in myself now. There's a belief that I am an NHL goalie, that I can play in this league, and I can win in this league, and I can play well. So now it's just being able to keep growing, keep moving forward, and keep getting better every single day. And hopefully one day I'll be able to be a full timer.
Oh, well, we look forward to seeing you. I know that day's not far away, and we look forward to seeing you up here with the Oilers in the near future against Stuart. Thanks so much for this, man. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, thank you.
Coming off that conversation, and so good to hear him speak, and so relevant and timely. So good job, Woody, for being able to arrange that discussion with Stuart Skinner. What's next? Like, it's kind of up in the air with the Edmonton Oilers as far as what they're going to do or what they may have to do, and that all revolves around Mike Smith and his status and COVID and making sure that you've got some security there.
Well, like I said in the interview, I was kind of hoping that, obviously I hope that Stuart's back in the National Hockey League as soon as possible so I get to see him at Rogers Arena, but they were supposed to be here for 4 straight games over 6 days next week, actually this week, I guess, later this week, with Bakersfield. We'll see what happens. Mike Smith's not playing today as we record this after apparently getting injured in his first game back from injury yesterday, so Stuart Skinner very well could be back in the National Hockey League by the time many people listen to this. I think at the end of the day, the work that's gone in from last year to now, the steps that he's taken, the way he's shown himself to be ready for this level, that opportunity is going to be there, whether it's now or next season. Like he's an NHL goaltender. You hear him talk about it. He believes it. Doesn't mean he's going to stop working, but he's an NHL goaltender. And I think they believe that too. And so whatever happens the rest of this year, COVID, injuries, it could be impacted by so many different things. But what it does is it gives you the security next year with Mikko Koskinen's contract expiring of knowing that you have a guy that's ready for the National Hockey League next year. What role that's in, I mean, a lot of other factors will go into that. Mike Smith having another year on his contract, and how long does this reoccurrence of an injury linger? Where's his health at next year when he'll be 40? But at the end of the day, it gives you that security of knowing for at least a certain amount of games and a certain role, you've got a guy that's homemade. Right. You don't need to go out into the market and invest in solving that problem. You've convinced
management they don't have to do anything.
Exactly. And Stuart's done that work. He's done that job. And it really is remarkable to me. Like I said, not to go back to that point, but it really was. I kind of I was told this is how that conversation went, but it was really neat to hear him say it. Like imagine, like you grow up in Edmonton. You heard him talk about game nights, watching Oilers games with his whole family. A family of 9, like he's got 8 siblings, like 9 kids, watching Oilers games. You get your first NHL start. And yeah, there's no fans in the building, but it's in the building in Edmonton. You win it. And yeah, as he said, he gave up 5. They beat the Ottawa Senators that night 8-5, but you win that. And immediately in elation of I'm in the NHL and I've won my first start, the next thought is, man, I've got a lot of work to do. And there's a self-awareness there. And the fact that he didn't just recognize it in that conversation, as I understand it, in the locker room after the game, like immediately, but then went out and did that work. Yeah. Recognized there were steps to be taken and then went and took those steps. Like, and directly because of that, he's ready for the opportunity. Like, to me, that's just, that's cool. That's what you want to see, right? Like, that's development working. That's a goaltender who isn't resting on laurels, who recognizes even in a moment that should be elation, there's still work to be done, and he went out and did it. And the other thing I can say is, like, I know Mike Smith, we talk about his status and how that affects it. Like, he's a fan. Like, he watched Stuart this year and was like, wow, like, Stuart's getting really good. Hey, like, there's kind of watching him in practice. There was that moment, it's been relayed to me, where he's like, wow, like, he's come a long way. So others around the organization and the team recognize this. And that's got to give him a lot of confidence. And it's got to give the organization and his teammates a lot of confidence, whether it's this year or next.
How many goalie coaches, in talking about recognizing things, and sometimes the goalie coach will come to you and say, "Look, we gotta really work on this area." But how many goalie coaches have had to experience the thrill or maybe the angst of playing in practice this year and going in and having the players that they're working with, the goalies that they're working with, watch them and having to live up to that kind of thing? Because we've practice goalies have become sort of the norm.
How many broadcasters have had to do that?
No, true. But I didn't.
Not too many. But I know you're referring to our good friend Franz Jean.
He looked good.
Tampa Bay Lightning. He looked so good. I sent the highlight to my son because he got to meet Franz here in Vancouver one time, and he just said, "Okay, tell me he played at a really good level once, because he looks better than a lot of junior goaltenders I see in terms of his skating." It's he was really impressed, and of course a little bit of windmill action in that highlight we saw too. So attaboy France.
And I would imagine there's a lot of this going on around the league. I remember the first time Ian Clark had to fill in here in Vancouver, and Roberto Luongo took the practice off. And I remember Roberto after just laughing and smiling and saying, yeah, there's a whole lot of not a whole lot of doing what he preaches out there. Like, it was do what I tell you, not what I do, right? He's out there throwing Jacques Plante like 2-pad stack jammers and or going Johnny Bauer poke check out there. Like, it was definitely not the way he teaches. So it's kind of nice to see Franz say, hey, that's old school, right? Just good footwork, good skating, get into position, and let him know you made a beautiful glove save with the windmill.
I watched him and went, let's go. Put him on the list of potential saviors. If you should,
they're getting down there, they may have to
need somebody. What's going on over at InGoal Mag?
Guys, what's going on over at InGoal Mag? I just want to refer back to the Stuart Skinner interview again, and he mentioned that moment, or Kevin mentioned that moment with Mike Smith, where he gave him that advice when he gave up that puck handling goal. He said, "Get back in there and handle that next puck as soon as you can." And if you're interested in that relationship between Mike and Stuart, I'd encourage people to go check out the article or the series that we published on Mike Smith teaching a couple of young goaltenders, including my son, about puck handling. And we made the first article in that series open so that you don't need to be an InGoal member to see it. We've published it in a few emails and out on social media. Just search Mike Smith puck handling. Look at the first one, and he actually talks about some of that stuff with the two young goalies he's with, about the attitude that it takes to become a great puck handler, about what he went through, about experiences he had very similar to what Stuart had. So if you want to learn more about that, that's just a great place to go. And we use that as part of some promotion stuff over the holidays, where we were trying to encourage people to give the best gift you can give the goaltender in your life, and that's a gift subscription to InGoal magazine. And if you are interested in that, if you didn't get all of the gifts that you'd hoped for Christmas, maybe you got a couple of bucks left under the tree to spend as you wanted, or maybe you're just looking for something to do because there's a little bit more snow than we all expected, and you want to spend some time sitting by the fire reading about goaltending, go grab yourself a gift subscription to InGoal Premium. You can get yourself one, or you can send one to your wife, your husband, your daughter, your son. Give them a full year of goaltending, where they're going to get not only the year of content that's coming, but everything that's already there, guys. So that's over 100 pro reads, not including the Darren Millard one that'll be coming this year, but you'll be able to sit down with NHL goaltenders and find out how they made their saves, why they made their saves. It's just the best teaching content out there for goaltenders. And we really encourage people to get aboard, grab a subscription. Costs even less than those fantastic sticks over at the hockey shop for you Americans. It's like a cup of coffee. I think it's about $40 American when you work out the exchange rate. And we do ship across the border via email. So grab your subscription,
what a day.
guys.
The Warrior V1 sticks over at the hockey shop, thehockeyshop.com, and a gift subscription to InGoal Mag, the premium member. Like this is the deals keep on coming. Woody, it's gonna keep us all up all day just downloading all this stuff.
As Hutch said, remember, if you get your annual subscription, it's not just what's coming, it's what's in the archives. You get the full 500 plus articles, over 100 plus pro reads. We will keep you busy for a while, and we will make you a better goaltender as a result.
This episode goes to the top of the list, and next week we will rejoin you to discuss what's going on in the wide world of goaltending and what lies ahead as far as trends as we get a handle on where the season is going. There's some cancellations because of attendance restrictions in Canada and a moving sort of fluid situation in and around the National Hockey League, which trickles down to the American Hockey League. And Woody's got everything handled on that front due to his access to both leagues. So we'll keep you up to date on that, as well as our feature interviews and what's happening over at the Hockey Shop. Haven't chatted with Cam in a while, so hopefully we get back with him at the Hockey Shop, thehockeyshop.com, and Source for Sports Surrey. For all of us, thanks for listening, and Happy New Year from InGoal Radio, the podcast.